If you are a little groggy on a Tuesday, let me just read this schedule to you at 6:05. All right? This was the President of the United States in the last 24 hours as he approaches the age of 80. Flew to Israel, spoke to the press, met with Israeli leaders, spoke to the press, met with families of the hostages, delivered an hour-long speech, did an interview, flew to Egypt, met with the Egyptian president, spoke to the press, took photos, chatted individually with dozens of world leaders, signed the historic Gaza peace deal, delivered another speech, met privately with world leaders, and flew back to the U.S. I'm tired just reading that list. Jeez, oh my God. I need a nap after just going down that list. It's 6:06. I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow. Now, that is the kind of guy that you have right now on behalf of this great nation working on peace around the world. Say what you want about Donald Trump. Is he uncouth at times? Does he put things on social media? Maybe he shouldn't once in a while. Sure, I'll give you that. Does he care deeply about the success and the well-being of not just this country and the people of this country, but I believe people around the world? There's no doubt in my mind about it. And if the last 24 hours is not proof enough for you of that, I don't know how else you can be convinced. I don't know how else to help you take off your blinders, to help you take off your orange-colored TDS glasses, and help you see the light as to what is really going on here. And what is really going on is a strategy for the President of the United States that is bigger than just this peace deal. It is about trying to get President Xi in line in China. It's about trying to squeeze Putin to the point where the Russia-Ukraine war can come to an end. And that impacts all of us, whether it's here in Kansas City to the other parts of the world. That's what this is also really about. And Bill O'Reilly, who you hear every morning at 7:15 on KCMO with his morning update, and 8 p.m., his weeknight show, the No Spin News, airs here on 95.7 FM. He was on News Nation last night, and he put it very well when it comes to what exactly this means. Mark, if you could grab that clip, please, of Bill O'Reilly talking about this last night on News Nation.
Donald Trump's power worldwide has just increased about 1,000%. But he's going to Korea to talk to Xi. Xi and the Chinese know that he has the Arab world and the Middle East on his side. China needs the Middle East, even though they're temporarily buying oil from Russia, okay, and Iran. They need the Middle East. They can't afford to alienate the Arab nations. All right. But Trump's going in with a big advantage, and he's looking at Xi, and he's saying, listen, the whole world is now coalescing around the United States. NATO, EU, Middle East, you got to get on board. You got to stop all this stuff and become a partner with the USA for world peace and prosperity. That's what I did in May. That's why I was in Beijing, to lay that groundwork. If Xi does that, and I believe he will because the Chinese economy is going south faster than New Yorkers are getting out of the city going to Florida, okay? I think Xi's looking for a way. But part of the negotiation is going to be, you, China, got to get out of the Putin business, right? OPEC will replace the Russian oil. But you have to stop supporting Putin to end the Ukrainian war. That's the deal that is going to emerge. And that's the importance. It is all linked together.
So that was Bill O'Reilly last night explaining this very succinctly, where basically if Trump gets the entire Middle East on his side, or at least close enough to being on his side in a way no U.S. president has done in our lifetime, that starts to squeeze Xi, who then hopefully starts to squeeze Putin, stops buying Putin's oil, and then that puts Putin in a real bad spot as he tries to continue his war with Ukraine. That seems to be the only way out at this point of that war, because Putin's a total wacko and madman who has shown no real intention to bring that war to an end. So it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together. And yesterday was an enormous piece of the puzzle. And if Trump is able to solve this and bring world peace to some of these other issues we've been talking about, get China in a good place, end the Russia-Ukraine war, forget the Nobel Peace Prize next year. I mean, that should be a slam dunk, right? I mean, you're talking about Mount Rushmore levels here for the president of the United States. That is not an overstatement. Don't sit there and roll your eyes. That is not an overstatement. If he's able to achieve some of these things on a large scale around the world, I don't know what room there is on Mount Rushmore. I'm not sure who would do the work. I'll worry about that at a later date. But if he is able to bring some of these conflicts that have obviously been a thorn of the side of not just the United States, but the world for several years now, and you do have relative peace in the Middle East, the hostages out of Israel are now home. 20 living ones at least. We're still waiting on the 24 ones who died. And then that snowballs into more peace deals in the Middle East. China getting back in line. And the Russia-Ukraine war coming to an end in that order. I mean, you're talking about an all-time presidency here. And it goes back to something I said November 6th of last year. Donald Trump losing in 2020. As rough as those few years were on the issues of inflation, and obviously there's been a lot of, sadly, death and destruction around the world. For his legacy, and more importantly, for the future of America, Donald Trump winning 2 non-consecutive terms with Joe Biden sandwiched in the middle as a reminder of just how damaging those policies can be domestically and globally, may actually set up the Republican Party, if they're smart, which is a big if with these guys, but if they're smart, may set them up for quite a run of political success in this country. Huge if. And I understand this stuff does ebb and flow and go back and forth. I'm not going to sit here and make the James Carville prediction from 2008 when he said after Obama won, we're in for 30 years of Democrats running the White House thanks to Obama. The guy hadn't done anything, and he was making that prediction about Obama. Like, can he sign a piece of legislation first, please? Is that too much to ask? But because of the way that this has played out, 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden, and now 4 years of Trump, and it goes success, utter failure, success. That is a short-term enough sample size with enough recency bias where people remember it, where if Trump keeps this thing going on the tracks, man, it can end very well for them politically, and obviously can be a huge, huge windfall of success domestically and on the foreign policy front for the United States of America. We're not there yet. Obviously, there's a government shutdown that's now on day 14. I guess the Senate's going to vote today to see if they can get to that 60-vote threshold and reopen the government. I am not going to hold my breath on that. But overall, man, it has been a heck of a couple of days. Who's having a better couple of days, Patrick Mahomes after his game against the Lions or Donald Trump? Any other week, I'd say Mahomes, but right now it's Trump, man. All right? Sorry. I know that, Patrick helped Mark win his big parlay on Sunday, so he would probably be biased and say it's Patrick. But I'm sorry there, Mark. I'm going to go with the Trumpster, man.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, gas prices are coming down, so.
Hey, bingo. They are. You're right. I've only got 30 miles left. I got like half a gallon left. I've been waiting for Trump to get these prices down just a little bit further before I go back to the old Quick Trip. But you're right. They're coming down, man. These are good times. Let's keep them rolling. Good times this morning with you on KCMO. 913-408-7957 is how you join us. Jackson County did pick its next executive for the next 12 to 14 months. It is Phil Lavoda. Is that a win for the taxpayer, for you, or is that a loss? And what does it mean for the region, by and large? Because if you're not a Jackson County resident, you're like, why do I care? I'll explain next on KCMO. Well, it was nice knowing you, Kay Barnes. She can go back to retirement at 87 years old up in St. Joe. She will be relieved of her duties as the temporary Jackson County executive coming up on Thursday. And that's because the county selected the interim county executive to replace Frank White yesterday, and that is going to be attorney Phil LaVota. He beat out Dan Tarwater in a 5-4 vote yesterday, and LaVota will fill Frank White Jr.'s tenure until January 1st of 2027. It's a fine pick. Listen, people keep saying, who did you want to get it? I know Dan Tarwater better than I know Phil LaVota. I might trust Dan Tarwater's motivations more than I trust Phil LaVota's, because Phil was instrumental in the recall effort of Frank White, not just from an organizational perspective, but also from a financial perspective. So I do feel a little icky about the idea that the guy was able to potentially help basically buy his way to ousting Frank White and then potentially buy his way into the interim county executive. But as far as I understand it, he is not going to run for the permanent position in 2026. I admire that. That's the right move. And now let's just do the business of the county. So he's the guy. And the reality is this. When you're talking about replacing Frank White, it could not get any worse. So from that perspective alone, Phil LaVota is already on the right track because he's not Frank White. He will show up to meetings. He will care about the business of Jackson County. He will be interested in property tax relief for the voters of Jackson County. So right there, those are three things that obviously are good about having Phil LaVota in this seat. There's a lot of people I know in attorney land who do not like Phil LaVota. I can't tell how much of that is personal versus professional. I have no idea. I'm just telling you, there are a lot of people in Jackson County, in the political arena and in the legal arena, who do not like him. But as far as I'm concerned, for the average person in Jackson County, Phil LaVota's 14 months in office will be defined by what does he do on the property assessments and what does he do and how can he help with the Chiefs and the Royals. That's it. That is how he will be judged, not about petty backroom politics. And you heard some good stuff from him yesterday. Phil LaVota saying this about the voters in Jackson County, the owners of property in Jackson County, and how relief is going to be on the way.
My thing just kind of had some policy issues. I do not have a time frame of days. I have a time frame of how long I'll be here, and it's going to be a year and a couple months. So I figured those 400 some odd days. I don't have a guideline of what, but I do have issues, and to anyone listening in Jackson County, be ready for some relief. The tax assessments told us there were a problem, and that's why we're here. So relief is coming.
Does that include firing Gil McCain?
That includes looking at everyone in county government and making sure they're doing everything they can to be effective.
The question, in case you missed it there to Phil LaVota, was, does that include firing Gail McCann Beatty? She is the assessor in Jackson County. And he beats around the bush and he says it includes looking at everybody, in a position or whatever he says there at the very end. Kind of beats around the bush. I'll just put it this way. If he doesn't fire her by the end of the month, then as far as I'm concerned, he's done. That's the first thing of substance that Phil LaVota needs to do. Blow out the entire assessor's department. From Gail McCann Beatty on down. This office has been so incompetent. There was zero accountability under Frank White, and there was real pain for real county residents based on the incompetency of these assessments and how they were handled, and the inability to get in front of the right person at the county level to appeal in some cases, waiting weeks and months on end for these appeals. It's an embarrassment, and it's hurt real, regular people in Jackson County. And if Phil LaVota is not willing to do that, then he has no business being in that assessor's or being in that county executive's role. None whatsoever. And I believe he is going to do it. I think he basically said there, he wasn't going to announce right there, yeah, I'm going to fire her by Halloween. He wasn't going to come out and say that. Part of me wishes he would have, but that's why I do a talk show, and he's going to be the interim county executive because
Touche.
He's not going to go out there and just
got the job. Usually you go to Disneyland right after that. That's your first announcement, right?
Well, I'm glad he's not doing that. There's a lot of work to do around here. But I do believe he's going to get rid of the county assessor based on the way he paused and tried to figure out how he wanted to answer the question. And good job by that local reporter saying, are you going to fire the county assessor? That was a good question. No beating around the bush there from that reporter. Well done, whoever that was. And Phil says,
Betsy Webster from KCTV5.
All right.
I know she asked that question to him. I don't know specifically that one, but.
Good on Betsy. She's a pro. She's been around this market for a very long time. So great job by her. So if that was her, great job there, Betsy. Well done. And the way that Phil LaVota didn't answer it at first and took a deep breath and paused tells me he's going to do it. He's just trying to figure out how and when he's going to do it. My point is this. Don't wait, Phil, okay? Don't wait. Don't drag your feet. There's so much that needs to get done here and needs to get done quickly. And then for the Chiefs and the Royals. At this point, there's not much that Phil LaVota can do to keep the Kansas City Royals. And frankly, I don't think he should. Jackson County wins by the Royals going elsewhere because it gives them what they need to try to retain the Chiefs. And that is actually increasing the sales tax revenue to the Chiefs while decreasing the tax burden on the residents. Right now, these two teams split a 3/8 cent sales tax. If he gets that down to a 1/4 cent, that's tax relief for the citizens. It's more money to the Chiefs to renovate or do whatever they want to do out at Arrowhead Stadium, and it gets them on the ballot, hopefully, in April. If he can build up the trust and show that this county is able to function and operate at a relatively high level with this legislature and move the ball forward on all of these big projects that need to get done here in the next few months, then that is also a big win. Retaining the Chiefs, having that team out at the Truman Sports Complex is a huge deal. The Royals, that ship has sailed. There's nowhere for them to go in Jackson County. Spread that out. Spread out the tax base. Get them up north. If they want to go to Kansas, I guess, put them at 119th and Knoll. That shouldn't matter to Phil LaVota. But getting them out and retaining the Chiefs from a sports standpoint should be priority number one for him as well. And I believe he can get that done. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. What are our local members of Congress saying after a historic day yesterday? Well, it's what they're saying and not saying next. You would think that no matter your political leanings, you would have some reaction if you were a member of Congress yesterday in the wake of the historic peace deal that was signed by the President of the United States. But not here in Kansas City. No. Nope. I guess maybe they didn't have access to their X or Facebook accounts yesterday. I don't know. That's if I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But what an embarrassment this is for our local members of Congress who cannot say a single nice thing about the President of the United States when he signs a peace deal that brings home 20 hostages who are alive, and by the way, also protects and saves the lives of Palestinians, folks who are going back to the Gaza Strip, who now can try to rebuild. It is ending death and destruction for both sides. Let's be very clear here, what the President of the United States did this week. And you would think that that is something that everybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent, could celebrate. But that's not the case here in the Kansas City area. So I looked up what our local leaders were talking about yesterday, and I went first to Sharice Davids, Congresswoman on the Kansas side of the state line, 3rd Congressional District, and she has one post up from yesterday, a story from the Kansas Reflector talking about the government shutdown. She writes here, I'm working to get the government reopened. What are you going to do? You're a member of Congress with no juice in the House from Kansas. With all due respect, in the party that's not in power. What are you going to do? I'm working to get the government reopened. So am I, okay? I mean, we got basically, trust me, I may have more juice right now than Sharice Davids. And that's not about me, but at least I've got access to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. He came on the show last week.
So you got a few numbers. We can call at least 5 people.
Exactly. And Mike Johnson will at least take our call. I'm pretty sure he's not taking Sharice Davids' call. I'm just saying. So that was her one post from yesterday, and then she had a second post from yesterday. Nothing about the hostages, nothing about Israel and Hamas. Instead, it was about Indigenous Peoples Day. Oh, jeez.
I'm getting pissed now.
It's Columbus Day. In this house, it's Columbus Day.
There you go.
In this house, we believe in Columbus Day. She writes, on Indigenous Peoples Day, I'm reflecting on the strength, resilience, and brilliance of Native communities across the country. She writes, as a ho chunk. What is that? A Chinese food dish? A ho chunk? Can I get a pint of the ho chunk, please? As a ho chunk, I'm proud to carry our stories and voices to Congress. I'll keep working to ensure Native people are seen, heard, and respected every day. See, they make up these victim mentality statuses that don't actually exist, but I guess that's what you need for social media sometimes.
Well, I would give her credit if she did.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's a
right.
good point.
I think she's just saying she is doing
That's true. That's very true. So she had a post about Indigenous Peoples Day and one about the shutdown. Nothing about the hostages coming home. Nothing about, the ceasefire. No time for that. Let's go to Emmanuel Cleaver on the Missouri side of the state line. Let's see. Do we have anything from old Musty Moo Moo?
You muster moo moo moo.
Let's see. Musty Moo Moo, he must be taking a vacation with the government. Musty has not posted anything here in about 3 days. He shared something 3 days ago that writes here, to all federal workers, if you were illegally fired today and have information of wrongdoing or abuse of power by the Trump administration, our whistleblower tip line is open. We want to hear from you. All whistleblowers are federally protected. Old Cleaver. No one knows how to blow a whistle like Emmanuel Cleaver. He also writes here 3 days ago, instead of working with Democrats to negotiate a bipartisan spending bill that will reopen the government and lower health care costs for working class families, the president is illegally mass firing hardworking civil servants across the country. It is shameful. So nothing over the last 3 days from Emmanuel Cleaver. He has just posted those two things back to back from 3 days ago. So I guess he doesn't have anything at all to say about the ceasefire yesterday. What about Quentin Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City? Nothing from him. He talked yesterday on social media about the Chiefs winning against the Lions. I saw him on Sunday night. He was in good spirits. And then he posted about Phil LaVota becoming the new Jackson County executive yesterday on an interim basis. And then he reposted an NBC sports reporter saying the new Kansas City airport is awesome. So nothing from the mayor of Kansas City. And it's not as much on him. This is more about the federal delegation than it is, the mayor of Kansas City. But Quentin Lucas is never one to shy away from sharing his opinion on social media, so he must have just skipped over the ceasefire yesterday, John.
Buy, sell, or hold. They thought smarter of posting the Democratic position that Joe Biden's responsible for this. And maybe they said, I'm not doing that.
You know what?
Try to give him a little credit. Buy, sell, or hold.
I'm going to sell that, John.
Oh, okay.
You're in a much more giving mood than I am this morning.
Well, hanging out with Mark can put you in a good mood.
Mark does do
Rubs
that to
off
you on the other side of the glass.
Okay.
Yeah, I am not going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right.
Where they were basically told, hey, could you share the post from Joe Biden where he talked about how basically he laid the foundation for this deal? And they were like, well, I'm definitely not doing that. No, I don't think that's
What
it.
else you got?
Yeah, give me something else to work with. Instead, we got Sharice Davids talking about being a ho-chuck, and you got Emmanuel Cleaver not posting anything on social media over the last 3 days. But no, I can't go down that road and suggest that at least they get credit for not sharing the Joe Biden propaganda of his administration being the ones who laid the foundation for what happened yesterday overseas. There's no way I could get to that point. 913-408-7957. It was just an unbelievable day yesterday. It started right at 6 a.m. our time here in Kansas City. And we carried the Trump press conference, or the speech that he gave to the Israeli parliament, and the day just kept going and going. I mean, every hour, the news story was changing with the president. He's meeting with leaders in Egypt. You know, he's giving Macron a hard time. Did you hear him talk about how beautiful one of the world leaders was? Oh, man, this was outstanding. You didn't hear this? Here is the president of the United States talking about the Italian prime minister. Let's take a listen. Trump was in a great mood yesterday because he knew how historic a day this was, not just for him, but also for the rest of the world.
We have a young woman who's, I'm not allowed to say it because usually it's the end of your political career if you say it. She's a beautiful young woman. Now, if you use the word beautiful in the United States about a woman, that's the end of your political career, but I'll take my chances. Where is she? There she is. You don't mind being called beautiful, right? Because you are. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. She wanted to be here, and she's incredible, and they really respect her in Italy. She's a very successful politician.
Where is she? Where's Giorgia Meloni? Where's Giorgia? Where is she? Yeah, she is the prime minister of Italy. She is, by the way, she is well regarded. And that was just Trump being Trump there, talking about how, you know, she's a beautiful woman. That'll get you canceled in America. No, Columbus Day is back. You can say men are handsome. You can say women are beautiful. That's acceptable terminology once again in the United States. And yes, we can define a man and a woman as well. Once again, in the United States. We're back, baby.
Talk about a bombshell.
That's right. We are so back. And then you've got, sadly, two of our federal delegation members here locally who can't say a single nice thing publicly about what happened yesterday. That is a damn shame. Well, as only the president of the United States can do yesterday, you know, he gets done. We wrap up in the morning. He's going from Israel to Egypt. He's meeting with world leaders there. And he clearly is building the trust of many in the Middle East, which is good as he tries to then build the bridge with China and then bring an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. But he was trolling Canada yesterday at the same time, basically admitting that everything he said about Canada being a 51st state is a joke. It's a joke. Now, I know there's Canadians who don't like it. I understand some may say, why would we do that to one of our neighbors up to the north? Why go down that road? Remember when that was a thing like back in the spring when he was just going after Canada? 51st state. They'd make a great 51st state. I'd love to have the governor up there, Trudeau. It's like, all right, well, now, this was yesterday, a hot mic moment between President Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister. What do you say? Let's take a listen to what he said to Mark Carney. Roll the tape.
So you going back?
No, I'll go back. I'm glad you upgraded me to president.
Oh, did I say?
It's good. I started.
Who said it?
So it's hard to listen to there, but it's on a hot mic. It's not like in front of the cameras, but you can hear Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, say, "Oh, I've been upgraded to president. Thank you very much." And then you can hear Trump slap him on the arm and say, "Well, at least I didn't say governor." And you can tell that Trump's doing it in a fun-loving way. While media melts down over this stuff, that's just dudes being dudes. That's what that is right there. It's guys understanding that, you know what, you're breaking each other's chops. You're breaking each other's something else. It's the media here in America that loses its mind over some of these things that Trump does and says. And it's back to the old adage from 9 years ago now. You take Trump seriously, but you don't have to always take him literally. And in fact, you shouldn't always take him literally. If you do, you will end up with a daily dose of TDS. It's not good for your health. That's what doctors are saying. Like Sanjay Gupta. Okay? But when you hear things like the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney say to Trump, jokingly, "Hey, I'm glad I've been upgraded to president." He's joking. He started off the joke. And then Trump does the old slap him on the side of the arm. Trump laughs at it. and says, at least I didn't say governor. It was two guys actually having a great moment. It showed a normalcy between two guys who are of obviously different political ideology, but are neighbors and need to work together. And that's the kind of stuff you want to see. That's the kind of stuff that I appreciate watching. And that's not going to make headlines because it doesn't fit the narrative of Trump going after Canada, which is really what they want to create. This narrative that Trump is going after Canada and he won't let up and he wants the 51st state. And let's be honest, there were even people on the right when this was like a thing in the spring, conservative influencers, I guess you'd call them, who were going down the road of, oh, this is a great idea. Yeah, I mean, Canada should be our 51st state. And they're like making the case for it. It's like, guys, it's not going to happen. Just stop. Just have fun with it. Don't take yourself so seriously. Trump's not taking it seriously. He's literally trolling everyone who's talking about it. And you got people on the left losing their minds. You have some sycophants on the other side being like, this is actually a great idea. Here's why it should happen. And we should take them over. It's like, no, it's just comedy hour. And yesterday was case in point that for Trump, it's just a joke. Get over it. Relax. It's a joke. The real stuff is what was happening in the Middle East. The real stuff is the Gaza peace deal. That's the real stuff. The Canada 51st state stuff, that's just Trump entertaining himself and as a result, entertaining the rest of us who don't take him seriously, or literally, I should say, on those things. John, that's it, man. That's all I got.
Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau is hanging out with Katy Perry.
I know.
How about that noise?
Did you see them smooching away?
How about that?
I think after she was done kissing Trudeau, she said, I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Exactly. Right.
I'm done. I'm walking off. You guys got the rest of the show, okay?
That one. Meanwhile, the CFL is looking to do with some of the things that make it unique from the NFL becoming more like the NFL, so they're further triggered north of the border.
Yes. Oh, man. Listen, we love our friends up in Canada. Mexico, they still got to get their act together with those cartels. But Canada, no real problems there.
We got good. Seattle representing. We're trying to keep Canada out of the World Series.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Mark's got his Mariners hat on. Mark, I didn't see what happened last night. How did Game 2 go at the ALCS?
They won 10-3.
Oh.
In a shocking big win in Toronto. So the next maybe three, they might sweep them, are in Seattle.
Wow. Back to Seattle against the Blue Jays for the American League Championship Series. Let's be honest, though. Major League Baseball is not happy with a Seattle-Toronto ALCS. Okay? They're not. You know that, and I know that. They could have had Boston. They could have had New York. They wanted some of those, bigger baseball markets. And they got Seattle, and then they got north of the border. That is not good for ratings. We all know that.
Getting Seattle, though, for the first time in the World Series will be a nice storyline. If they can do it.
But if it's Seattle against the Dodgers and it's an all West Coast, that's not good for ratings.
That's true.
The West Coast does not drive ratings in any major professional sports in this country. That's why I don't understand why we cater to the West Coast on kickoff times for football or first pitch in World Series games. The West Coast doesn't drive the ratings. It's the East Coast and it's the Central Time. But you got World Series games starting at 8:15 Eastern Time because we got to appease the West Coast, who doesn't care. They're surfing. They're on the beach. They're hiking. They don't watch sports. They're not into it. They do other things, which is fine. It's totally cool. But it's not part of their culture as much as it is on the East Coast and certainly in the Midwest.
It threw me off because the game started at 4 o'clock yesterday, our time, and it was 4:15. And I'm like, the Mariners are already up 3-0. Crazy.
Oh, yeah. So it started 4 o'clock yesterday?
Yeah.
And then in the NLCS, the Dodgers are up 1-0 now over the Brewers. And same thing there. I mean, Dodgers, obviously, L.A., major market. But no one's happy about the Brewers being
Milwaukee,
in the NLCS.
Seattle. Don't they deserve a Milwaukee-Seattle series back there in New York?
Oh, man. I think the worst combo would be Toronto and Milwaukee. I mean, that would be horrific. That would be the ratings would get just destroyed. Milwaukee, Toronto. At least Seattle, you do have a top 10 market there. But, yeah. Gosh.
Well, and that's like Mark says, a story. That'd be their first ever appearance as a franchise.
Yeah, that would be.
That's a novel thing.
A big dumper.
Yeah, they got their big dumper there at catcher, Cal Raleigh. Oh, man. If I could play king for a day, I would ban these electric scooters that you're seeing these teenage boys fly around in neighborhoods across Kansas City, and I got to imagine it's happening all over the country as well. But yesterday, there was a real tragedy. A juvenile is right now in critical condition after a crash in Leawood. So police say it happened at about 6 p.m. on Lee Boulevard, just north of 103rd Street. The Leawood Police Department said that a vehicle struck a juvenile that was on an electric scooter. The juvenile was taken to a local hospital and is in critical condition. Police said the driver of the car remained on the scene. Now, here's what I notice, and this is just anecdotally seeing these things around my neighborhood. It's teenage boys. And trust me, that's, not all that long ago. Remember being a dumb teenage boy. You do stupid things. But they're riding these scooters, and they're electric, and they're not riding them and abiding to the laws of the road. They're just riding them like they're on their bike through a neighborhood, which they also should be, of course, abiding by the rules of the road. But at least when you're on a bike, you're going through a neighborhood, you're on a bike, you're not going 30 miles an hour on one of these scooters. That's the difference. And I see these like near misses and near collisions, and I'm like, one of these kids is going to get hurt one of these days. And God forbid, seriously hurt. So there's a couple of things you could do. You could have state laws that are strengthened against these scooters, but a lot of this stuff is done by city ordinance. But these are just, I am not surprised that this happened in Leawood yesterday at all. And frankly, I'm surprised we don't see more stories like this. You look around, you do have shopping centers that have gone out there, and they have put bans on some of these electric scooters. But man, these kids, and I can't sit here and say the kids are idiots, because that's what kids are. They're inherently, especially teenage boys. Listen, we're all stupid at that age. But let's not give kids a reason to be even dumber. And that's what we're doing right now with these electric scooters. And now you got a kid who may not make it after this crash in Leawood yesterday. 913-408-7957 is the text line and the studio line on KCMO.
They're not wearing helmets either. I don't know if that would have helped this kid at all in this case, but kids just, they don't want to wear helmets.
Well, you're right about that. You're right. And I don't want to put more on the local cops here, because they've got plenty on their plate that probably doesn't involve busting kids not wearing helmets on electric scooters. But at the same time, you're going 30 miles an hour. You're 15, 16 years old. I'm not even convinced some of these kids are legally allowed to be on these things based on the ages. But it is a recipe for disaster right now.
Most of the kids in my neighborhood are probably 10 to 13.
Oh, so that's illegal. I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
Yeah.
Because on city ordinance, I was looking this up in Kansas. The minimum age for operating an electric scooter varies by city, some requiring riders to be at least 16 years old, while others have no state-mandated age limit but require a valid driver's license. Helmets are required for riders under 18 in some areas and are generally encouraged for all ages for safety reasons. Local laws are strict on where you can ride. For example, some cities ban them from sidewalks and high-speed streets, while others allow them on sidewalks but not at speeds over 15 miles an hour. No one's abiding by these laws, John.
Yeah, it's too general. You'd act like you'd have somebody out there. I saw some at one time that Overland Park had out at about 105th and Metcalf. There's a Hardee's there. And I thought, well, you're taking your life in your hands. If you want to cross Metcalf, that's 3 lanes both ways divided. And on a 100-degree day in his suit, what's a guy doing? Picking up a scooter and cruising to Hardee's and back over to the office park? These things go faster than they should, right?
Yep.
For these safety requirements, no matter how old you are to operate them. But I've also just seen them. They used to be in places. It all started with the Bird scooter, the Lime scooter. Got to have it downtown. Got to have them on the plaza. Well, Roland Park doesn't want to be left out, so everybody got them. And then they were just kind of leaving them where you could pick one up and use it. And so now it seems they've kind of migrated to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, well, now people are just buying them privately.
Yeah, okay.
That's what's going on.
So that's some of these and not necessarily the city lease.
No. These are not Lime scooters or anything. These are just kids with bikes. Parents are buying them. And they
similar scooter, just not that brand, right?
Correct. Yeah, these are not branded, rented through some company or through the city. They're just the kids own the scooters now. Parents are gifting them to the kids.
Well, so city's in a double deal here now because you've allowed them in certain areas for certain uses, and now you've got an issue on the private side.
913-408-7957, the text line and the studio line here on KCMO. If I could just wave a magic wand and ban these things, I would do it. Because it's also, if you're a driver, right? I mean, I got a text here from a couple of people saying that they've almost hit these guys a couple of times. Because once again, they're just flying around neighborhoods. That's not a situation that a driver should be thinking about right now or have to worry about. Let me make sure I don't hit a kid when I'm turning into my neighborhood because he's not abiding by the rules of the road, which is what we're going through right now.
Yeah, some of the motorized ones, at least you hear the kid coming or something like that. These motors, the Razor scooters and all are just you right?
Well, the electric ones, they're electric. So you just end up in a situation
whiz right by you.
Yeah, where you don't hear them, you don't see them, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a kid. And I don't know what happened in Leawood yesterday. It's currently under investigation. But I got to imagine the driver stayed at the scene, and he or she was probably completely caught off guard by whatever happened yesterday. 913-408-7957 on the text line. In Overland Park, the council doesn't want to change the rules because they see e-scooters and e-bikes as green, and it gives kids freedom. Oh, my gosh. You've got to be kidding me. Also on the text line, drive by an elementary school. There's more scooters at the bike rack than bikes. Yeah, that's just sad. Text line, Pete, where are the parents with monitoring the child age usage, where they're allowed to ride them, etc.? Also on the text line, Blue Hawk Shopping Center is the worst with the scooters. The kids zip through the parking lots, putting themselves and others at risk. The worst part is they are not wearing helmets and have no consideration for others around them. Yeah, because they don't know how to operate these things. I mean, if they're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, they don't have a driver's license. They don't know the rules of the road. They're flying around these e-scooters, and they don't have to care for anything other than themselves without realizing, man, you got to be careful. Text line, kids in my neighborhood ride them all over the street. No helmet, under 16. I worry so much. Their parents are brain dead. I mean, that's a nice way to put it. I totally agree with every one of those texts. And if these city councils are filled with such a group of losers that they think that this is a good way to go about the rules of the road because, well, they might preserve the ozone layer while China burns whatever it wants and India burns whatever it wants, then, man, we are run by a bigger group of fools than I even realized in some of these municipalities. Wow. I don't know if that's just one opinion on the text line, but that is really pathetic if that's what's going on in some of these cases. And if it's true that kids are going to schools with these scooters and there's more of these e-scooters than there are bikes in the bike rack, man, that's also just a sad state of affairs. At least with the bikes, you get a little exercise. I remember riding my bike to school as a kid, about 1.5 miles each way. It was great. It was a sense of, freedom. And being on a bike is not the same as these e-scooters and these e-bikes that are just flying all over neighborhoods right now. It's just not the same deal.
And 2 summers ago, it was about all bikes going through the neighborhood. Now it's all these scooters.
I know. It's a bad look, man. It really is. So yesterday, of course, was Columbus Day. No, it was not Indigenous Peoples Day. It was Columbus Day because in this country, we celebrate Christopher Columbus. We celebrate his bravery, his exploring the new world, and that is what yesterday was about in this country, despite the fact that there were some people around Kansas City that were trying to convince you otherwise, which I'll get to here in a second. But the greatest clip I saw on the internet yesterday came from this comedian, Sean Farash, and I shared this and reposted this on X at Pete Mundo. And this guy does a great Trump impression. I mean, you tell me, you listen to this, and you tell me whether you can tell whether or not this is Donald Trump. This is an incredible Trump impression. And it is supposed to be, of course, his comedy routine around the President of the United States celebrating Columbus Day. Here we go, Sean Farash.
This is your favorite president, or as they call me, Chief Golden Eagle. And I wanted to wish you a very happy Columbus Day. I knew Christopher Columbus very well. He was a great friend of mine. I called him Chris, and he did a tremendous job. But the radical left-wing crazy Democrats want to call it Indigenous Peoples Day, and I get along very well with the indigenous people. They love me. They call me Chief Golden Eagle. They say, Chief, what are we going to do about these crazy radical left-wing Democrats like Lion Liz Warren? I call her Pocahontas. Chief Spitting Bull. She's a horrible person and a loser. And the only woman who has ever failed a DNA test. Nobody ever thought that was possible, but she failed a DNA test. What a disgrace. Jiggly Belly Pritzker. I call him Chief Eats Too Much. Chief Broken Scale. Every scale he steps on says, ouch, you're hurting me. Please get off. He's a huge guy. He keeps stuffing his face. He's a huge guy and a stupid guy. And Peso Store Obama. Right? You look at him in his sombrero. El Hakimo, Chief Tiny Teepee. He has a very small teepee. I have a huge teepee. Everybody knows about it. He has a tiny teepee. You know what I'm talking about. And he ought to be ashamed of himself. And he is ashamed of himself. Chief Tiny Teepee, El Hakimo. But we are sending out an executive order via smoke signal commemorating today as Columbus Day. We're making it Columbus Day again, celebrating my tremendous friend, Christopher Columbus, and all of his incredible achievements. So happy Columbus Day. God bless you. God bless America. And thank you for your attention to this matter.
Oh, that guy is great, man. That is just...
Nailed it, yeah.
He nailed
Got
it.
the natural ability.
I mean, that is just, gosh, hours in front of the camera.
What makes it the best is you get the breaths in there.
Yes. Yeah. The breaths are fantastic. The cadence is absolutely perfect. And the repetition of certain words, like picking and choosing what words to emphasize, oh my, that is just spot on, man. You can't do it any better. Combine that with the comedic gold. And this guy, by the way, is a big Trump supporter. There were many back in his first term who did Trump impressions, but they were haters. This guy loves Trump. Trump has shared some of his videos in the past. And that one yesterday got a couple million views across all the social media platforms. Brilliantly written and brilliantly delivered. El Equipo. Oh, gosh. That was just outstanding work all around.
Tiny teepee.
El Equipo with his tiny teepee. Oh, jeez. Oh, now back here in Kansas City, we had this from Congresswoman Sharice Davids. She posted nothing on social media about the hostages getting released yesterday out of Israel, despite having actually a, relatively strong Jewish presence here in the 3rd District of Kansas in Johnson County. Nothing from Sharice Davids on that. She did have a post, though, about Indigenous Peoples Day. Writing here, I am reflecting on the strength, resilience, and brilliance of Native communities across the country. Okay, so here's what bothers me. Not that there is an Indigenous Peoples Day. I mean, once again, there are days for everything these days. There are days for everything. I don't even know what half the days are that are out there. I know that Music Radio does a little bit every day where they read you the stupid day of the week or whatever it is. Today's Left-hander Blue Eyes
The
Day.
Chase promotional calendar is what it's called. There's got to be 12 things for every day on the calendar.
Hey, you're right. Mm-hmm. And Music Radio loves to degrade itself by talking about it every day.
Yes, sir. Today is Left-handed Peoples Day.
Hey, here's Bon Jovi.
National Dessert Day today.
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid stuff like that for some reason Music Radio thinks is good content. And you wonder why Music Radio is dying on the vine. But anyway, I'll save that for another time. I don't have an issue with Indigenous Peoples Day, but you guys corrupted Columbus Day, a great worldwide explorer, a great Italian American. and you did it on his day. You could pick any other day, but you did it on his day, and that's what annoys me. Not that there's an Indigenous Peoples Day, but that you did it specifically to spite Columbus Day. So Sharice Davids leans into this yesterday and writes here that she's reflecting on the strength, resilience, and brilliance of Native communities around the country. And then she writes, as a Ho-Chunk, I'm proud to carry our stories and voices to Congress. A Ho-Chunk. I mean, it sounds like a Chinese food dish to me. I'll take a pint of the Ho-Chunk, please. I'll keep working to ensure, she writes here, Native people are seen, heard, and respected every single day. That's fine. That's admirable. But please don't corrupt Columbus Day for it. That's all I'm asking here. Okay? Nothing about Columbus, nothing about the hostages, but we got the post on Indigenous peoples and a Ho-Chunk. So do with that what you want. Okay? There's your middle of the road, Sharice Davids. Last night, Bill O'Reilly did not hold back at all. He was just firing on News Nation, and I thought he did a great job explaining what yesterday's peace deal means for the big picture, how it's a piece of the broader global puzzle that President Trump is trying to solve. I'll get to that. But first, I wanted to play this for you. It was Bill O'Reilly, who you hear every morning here at 7:15 on KCMO with his morning update. And then his No Spin News show airs at 8 p.m. weeknights here on KCMO. He just teed off on Kamala Harris. Here he is yesterday.
Harris isn't smart enough to know what she's saying. What she gets is talking points every single day. But picture if she were president and all of you who voted for her, okay, you think those hostages would be out? You think we'd have a chance in China making a deal that might lend peace to the planet? Do you think that any kind of border security would have been implemented? You voted for this woman. That's what you wanted. All right? So I'm a pretty good analyst about politicians. I'll tell you the truth about all of them. I'll tell you the truth about Trump. Strengths and weaknesses all day long. Kamala Harris, and I want you to quote me, is not smart enough to even know what she's saying, the implications of what she's saying. That is why she lost. Couldn't even get a sentence out on the campaign trail. Nobody knew what the hell she was talking about.
There you go. That was Bill O'Reilly. And he's right. Regardless of who you voted for or what you think, it's not even close when it comes to what Bill said regarding the smarts or lack thereof of the former VP and former, of course, Democratic nominee. He is absolutely spot on with that analysis. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist, with all due respect to Bill, to come to the conclusion that Kamala Harris is not that bright. And we would not be sitting here talking about a peace deal had she been in the White House right now. So then Bill went also on to say that the president's next move here is to figure out how to use the peace deal in the Middle East to try to then get China to play ball in a way that squeezes Russia and brings an end to the Russian-Ukraine war. Here we go.
Donald Trump's power worldwide has just increased about 1,000%. But he's going to Korea to talk to Xi. Xi and the Chinese know that he has the Arab world and the Middle East on his side. China needs the Middle East, even though they're temporarily buying oil from Russia, okay, and Iran. They need the Middle East. They can't afford to alienate the Arab nations. All right. But Trump's going in with a big advantage, and he's looking at Xi, and he's saying, listen, the whole world is now coalescing around the United States. NATO, EU, Middle East, you got to get on board. You got to stop all this stuff and become a partner with the USA for world peace and prosperity. That's what I did in May. That's why I was in Beijing, to lay that groundwork. If she does that And I believe he will, because the Chinese economy is going south faster than New Yorkers are getting out of the city going to Florida. Okay? I think she's looking for a way. But part of the negotiation is going to be, you, China, got to get out of the Putin business, right? OPEC will replace the Russian oil. But you have to stop supporting Putin to end the Ukrainian war. That's the deal that is going to emerge. And that's the importance. It is all linked together.
That's Bill O'Reilly last night, audio courtesy of News Nation here on KCMO. You'll hear him, No Spin News, 8 p.m. weeknights on KCMO. So yesterday is not just historic for the Middle East, but it hopefully lays the foundation for getting Xi to squeeze Putin when it comes to oil, get the oil from OPEC. That obviously helps the rest of the world as well. And then it hopefully brings an end to the Russia-Ukraine war, which is the next step here. So this is all basically like putting a puzzle together, is what President Trump is trying to do. It doesn't mean he's guaranteed to achieve it, but it means it's something that he's got to look at and figure out, okay, what good can come out of this deal? What can this lead to next? And that's where actually having somebody who has done business for a living in the White House, this goes back to a conversation from 10 years ago. Having somebody who has common sense and a business approach to global affairs and, economic and domestic affairs can be very valuable. And you're seeing it play out in a valuable way. You even have Time Magazine put Trump on the cover. Can you believe that? As someone who was in the Time Magazine newsroom the day after Trump won back in 2016, I was there. I was doing some work at the time for Sports Illustrated, and Time Magazine, of course, owned Sports Illustrated at the time. So I'm in this newsroom day after Trump wins in 16. It's Time Magazine, it's Sports Illustrated, it's, I don't know if it was Fortune or Money Magazine. All of us were in the same newsroom together. And remember, Hillary didn't have a concession speech written. So she gave a concession speech the following day. I want to say it was like late morning. And I'm there. You could hear a pin drop in that newsroom. And all you heard was mostly young women sniffling. That's what it sounded like. Because they were so upset that Trump won. So for Time Magazine to put Trump on the cover with the headline, His Triumph, the leader Israel needed, how Gaza heals. You could have never predicted this with a relatively nice piece written by Time Magazine in a magazine that they are dropping here this week. Although Trump didn't like the photo that was on the cover. Right. Trump put up on social media this morning, Time Magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I never liked taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? This is exactly why they did it, by the way, right? They did it because they knew it would tick off Trump and that he would post on social media about it. And now they're getting their jollies in the newsroom.
That's exactly the game.
Yes, it's really that simple.